Let's just get started, okay? Unfortunately, we're missing Kyle. He was having some technical difficulties, so it's just going to be me and Luke today. I'm your host, Day, and this is my co-host. Which one are you?
If you're Day, then I'm above you, so I'm Dusk, which makes
Yeah, you're
sense
Dusk. You had a good app,
because it
dude.
does make sense because Dawn's been gone for a little bit. So
Yeah, that works. All right, so Luke, episode 7. What did you think of the episode?
I liked it. I think it gave us exactly what I was talking about last podcast, where I was kind of saying that we needed a flashback for the mule,
Yep.
but that comes hand in hand with the realization that we are very on track to have him die by the end of this season, and it's getting
Yeah.
scarier. Like I literally said that we need to flesh out his backstory more, but the fact that they did it in such a concise manner, it gave us 2 scenes. I am no longer on team that he's going to make it out of this season, and it's really sad because he's amassing his power so quickly, and it's still in a believable and well-written way that I like it all. And don't get me wrong, like he's still doing it for me. I had a 1 or 2 reservations about him this episode that I haven't had in the past, but I'll bring that up when we talk about it. But I'm starting to think that he might not be around after this season, and I don't know how to feel about it. And you couple that with the quote that was going around recently from the writer. You shared
Yeah.
it, I think, in our chat, saying that essentially the original showrunner had a plan up until the end of this point, and he knows where he wants the characters to end up. But the new team of writers that are eventually going to come in can do whatever they want, and they don't have to follow his plan. That really also lends itself to the idea it's going to be almost like a soft ending, like a fresh not a reboot, but like you could tell me that Gale dies at the end of the season, making like the ultimate sacrifice for the Foundation, or even just staying back with Pritchard and not jumping forward in time. And then you can tell me the Mule's dying because his story is so connected to Gale's. It could happen. It would be a lot in the next 3 episodes, and I'm sure they would be amazing episodes. The pacing would be incredible, but I think it would leave like a sour taste in my mouth because he's the type of character that is the foundation of foundation, along with Gale, where he's been there since the beginning. I just don't want him to go this early. I would love to have him end on such a high note at the end of the season, and then we take him down next season, kind of let it
Yeah.
breathe a little bit. But not that that says anything about the quality of this specific episode in a vacuum and what we're going to talk about, but I'm starting to have a little bit of a fear of, are we already preparing for the afterlife past the Mule and Gale?
Yeah, so speaking of fear, Luke, the new showrunner is apparently Ian Goldberg, who is the showrunner of Fear the Walking Dead.
Mm-hmm.
And the actual quote here is from David S. Goyer, who has been the one showrunning for seasons 1 through 3. He says, I haven't written any scripts for season 4. I did have an overall plan, but I don't believe the new team is adhering to any of those ideas. They are charting their own path and making it their own, as they should. We had someone tweet this at us. Look, you already talked about it. Me, you, and Kyle pretty much at exactly the same time in our group chat said that's the worst news that you could think of for this TV show. The one thing that I am wondering, Luke, about what you said is hopefully they don't screw something up in a way where they want to do this soft reboot or something, and we end season 3 open-ended.
Mm-hmm.
Because think about it. We have the prior showrunner who maybe believed that season 4, 5, 6, 7 was going to be under his reign. So maybe his plan was for the Mule to last longer. So could the
Mm-hmm.
Mule last past the season? And then could they like abruptly kill him off at the beginning of the next season, thinking they're being shocking, but also just removing all of the old showrunner stuff and bringing in the new? I don't know. It doesn't seem like it, but I really would hope there's some kind of a little bit of a collaboration here
Yeah.
in figuring this out. But yeah, it's not great news. But I agree with you. It does seem like the Mule has a shorter shelf life than we thought because of what we got. And let me just say, I loved the backstory that we did get, and we'll
Mm-hmm.
get into that. I'm really upset we don't have Kyle for this episode because I really would have liked to ask him what he thought of the Mule's time that he actually got.
Yeah, and that is some of the things I'll bring up when we talk about the whole new Terminus storyline. But if I had to guess, I would say that he didn't get worse in Kyle's eyes as a character, but I would also say that he's still probably in the same mindset where he's not fully sold on like this is a top 5 villain of
Yeah.
the year type of thing. And I feel like I'm in the same boat there too, but I still enjoy his presence, and that's why I'm hesitant to think about the future when he's gone. But
Right.
this is really kind of giving me Westworld vibes, where Christopher Nolan's brother, Jonathan Nolan, right? He
Yeah.
was the head of season 1 of Westworld, and then took a back seat. Yeah, and like the quality just completely dropped, and he had all these things he was setting up, and if the person that comes in to replace you doesn't respect your vision originally, like it's almost never a better situation after the transition happens.
Yeah. Westworld is the perfect example. A lot of people were trying to say, a lot of fans, obviously not us, but they were trying to say it was way too complicated, and they decided to go a different direction starting season 3, more action oriented, and then it got way too simple and way too nothing's
Mhm.
happening kind of situation. So
Jesse
yeah.
Pinkman. Nah.
Yeah. So yeah, I mean, and Aaron Paul joining Westworld, I was so happy, and I mean, he was fine, but it's just,
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah.
Anyway,
Okay.
let's just enjoy what we have, Luke. We
Yeah,
don't
for
have to
sure.
we
Like
don't have to get upset until something actually happens starting next 2
no
years
no
from now.
negative vibes for season 3. We are still killing it, I think.
I
I
agree.
do want to bring this up because I didn't say it on our last podcast, but I did a check-in on IMDb for the last couple of episodes. And episode 5, which I think was the last one you missed, and after talking through it with Kyle, like, was definitely my favorite of the season. It actually has an 8.6, which is pretty
Okay.
damn good. It's not like hitting Dexter levels, which are out of this world. So go
Yeah,
listen to
baby.
Dexter on Binge Empire if you're not listening to that. But 8.6 is pretty much the quality I'm expecting. And then the one after, so last episode landed at 8.3, which again, anything in the eights for IMDb is pretty tough to accomplish. So
Yeah.
people are, it's being recognized as a really good show. So let's just focus on the now. We'll have that conversation about season 4 when we get there at the end of the season. But for now, I'm still really happy with this. And you mentioned it already. I loved this backstory too. I think just like they did with Torin, where they didn't need to spend too much time on it because they do such a good job of establishing the character and their motivations and their characteristics in the show itself, that when you get to the backstory piece, you just need to fill in a couple of blanks and it all works. And that's exactly what happens here. I
Yeah.
knew right away when it was like years before I saw the little kid. I was like, this has got to be the Mule. And it kind of goes a little bit different than I thought, with how the Foundation was almost acting like overlords. And in
Yeah.
this last gap, while and Harry have been taking turns sleeping and not really overseeing the Foundation one, they seem to start getting more into their, I don't know, just like,
The inbers, pretty
yeah,
much. They were
exactly.
being very
Yes.
inberish.
Yes. Yes.
Just like
So
Harry actually predicted. He predicted this, but yes, I mean, they're looking very Trantor up in this bitch, as Kyle would say.
more than ever. And it kind of
Yeah.
surprised me because it did say that they were in the outer reach, so it makes sense because the Foundation has been in
Yeah.
control of all the outer reach planets since the end of season 2, so that
Yep.
makes total sense. I thought just a really random cool technology that they showed with like how the crops were harvested with that futuristic dystopian vibe of those wheels looked pretty cool.
Yep.
But it's not a complicated story, right? Like we find out that there's the people under the Foundation's rule, especially on the outskirts, are under a rationing system. There's not too many resources going on. They're probably trying to pool their resources to keep the main Foundation going. And then we find out that there's a one-child policy, and the Mule has a little baby brother that his parents end up deciding that after a huge threat that comes down, and it almost felt like to me, the first scene of Inglorious Bastards. Do you know what I'm talking about?
Yep.
Like that,
Yep. Yep.
yeah, it felt exactly like that. Like they're almost good, and then the baby cries, and then they're given the ultimatum: you have to basically only have one kid by the next time we're here in a month. And then I'm just gonna describe the second
Yep.
scene, and we can
Yep.
talk about it all. You skip ahead the month, and I knew it was coming here. I'm sure you did as well. They're by the water. The Mule has his back to his parents, but you can see what's really going on here, and they're gonna make their decision. I'm sure there's stuff to talk about here, but it goes exactly how I thought it would at this point, where he just explodes with his power. You see his eyes turn for the first time.
Yep.
And the most important part about this is they hammer home this quote or this theme that's been very intrinsically important for the Mule, which is "you love me," right? Like he's been
Yes.
saying that a lot. Looking back on all the scenes earlier this season, he's been saying that to everybody, like, you'll grow to love me, you'll love
Yep.
me eventually. All of that was just so good. And yeah, it just ends with that explosion of power, which I really loved. So I thought it was well done. And in a very cinematic way, they start it with the first scene and then you end with this second scene, but we're just going to talk
Yes.
about it all right now.
First thing I want to say is the Mule's family, they need to learn from Octavia's family in the 100. You put the
Mhm.
baby under the floorboards.
Mhm.
Octavia lived there for 18 years. She was fine.
Yep.
Anyway, shout out to the 100. But yes, this was perfect. This really was. I bought this 100%. I thought everything about it was great. It makes perfect sense as to why the mule acts the way he does, why his
Mhm.
power works the way it does, and why he uses the power in the way that he does. My one question to you, Luke, is during this narrative, this flashback narrative, at any point did you think that the baby was going to be the mule, or did you always think the kid was the mule?
No, I was leaning towards the kid from the beginning of
And
it, yeah.
and I will say they did pretty damn good with casting. I thought the kid looked like the actor who
He
played the mule.
absolutely did, yes. Yeah.
Especially towards the end when they colored his eyes blue and they had him like menacing looking out into the distance. I was like,
Mhm.
damn, good
I wonder if
job.
I didn't look into it, but I wonder if that actor as the kid has been in other things because he kinda had familiar vibes. Maybe it's because he literally looked like Euron
And
or yeah,
honestly,
the mule.
yeah, maybe he's a actual relative. Like Euron's old enough that that could be his kid or something like
Yeah.
that.
Mhm.
Either way, yes, I ate it up. And this was tough because I wasn't sure. Again, I took a while. Like in my head, I agree. I thought that the kid was the mule, not the baby.
Mhm.
But as the narrative is going forward and they're making their decision, I was like, like, are they gonna go with getting rid of the baby or are they gonna get rid of the mule, the kid? And it ended up being obviously that the mule was the kid and they chose him, which it's the impossible choice, but my goodness, it was awful.
So the reason I was pretty set on it not being the baby is I assumed one of them was going to die right there, and it's been
Yep.
in the back of my mind the quote from the opener of this season of season 3 when you meet Euron. He has this one line which we latched onto thinking that he was a Hober Mallow descendant or something, where he says to Galactus's actor, he
Yep.
says, "My parents would call me stubborn." That's all he said. And in order for
Ah,
his parents to have an opinion about him, he needed to have like grown up with them a little bit. So
right.
that's been in the back of my mind because I knew we were going to get something of his backstory. I don't know, like that quote doesn't really add much to it. I mean, they thought he was stubborn, I guess, but that was just something I was thinking about when I knew we were getting this backstory at some point.
Yeah, and the decision is made. The mule, as a child, was chosen. The father tries to get him to drink some crazy whiskey, maybe something to put him to sleep, and he was going for the drowning. And obviously, this paralleled Inber's finality here, his death from the mule. But the mule's underwater and he explodes with his powers, and it's
Very
very
naive,
interesting.
like.
Yes, yes. Shout out Wheel of Time, bring it back. Hashtag save Wheel of Time. And while we're
Yep.
here, hashtag save the OA too, right? um, but anyway, this is something that is very interesting to me. Everybody drink. As a mentalic, someone as powerful as him, did this actually make him more powerful? Did it kind of mold his powers, his trauma? Could he have lived his life and not realized he was a mentalic? Maybe he would have been weaker. Maybe he would have had a different power. We really don't know. And we talked about it. It is a little bit tough when it comes to this power that exists, and we really don't get much about why it exists or how it exists and who gets what power, etc. But
Mhm.
I was definitely thinking about that because there's a lot of scenarios in fiction where trauma makes power explode.
Yeah. And off the back of that, I have two final points, and then we can probably move to the modern time. This is you get half a point for starting this conversation. I think it was last podcast, and Kyle gets another half. Kyle gets a full point for
Oh,
kind of predicting how this goes. No, but because you were talking about the idea of has Gale having the visions like in her sleep caused a
right.
self-fulfilling prophecy for the mule. That's not technically what happened, but then Kyle finished the thought and had the prediction. What if instead of it being a self-fulfilling prophecy with just like the visions and it being that straightforward, what if like the chain of events that led to the foundation being created the atmosphere and the environment that directly led to the mule being the mule, and that got confirmed here. If it
Yeah.
wasn't for the
Yeah.
foundation, then the rationing wouldn't have happened and he wouldn't have been forced to kill his parents and explode with that power and grow for a hatred of the foundation. So it kind of worked out. You guys both worked together to really kind of come to that realization. I think that was good. The other thing I wanted to just say here, naturally, as podcasters, we have to talk about this. Is there any guesses of who this
Yeah.
baby could possibly be? Because I was going through the options in my head and I really don't see anybody. I don't have any viable guesses here. Like, is it an Inber descendant? That doesn't feel right because he grew up on the actual New Terminus planet and it felt like it would have been too quick of a timeline to get him to grow up and then have a kid, So I don't think that would work. And there's not really that many people in the Mule's age range that aren't Pritchard, like that are,
Yeah.
that could actually work to be his brother. It's probably not going to come back, but
Yeah.
it definitely could.
Foundation's very good at making you want something to come back and then it doesn't, but then you're okay with it because they do some amazing stuff anyway to
Yeah.
distract you. I was thinking Maggie, but not really. But
Ooh,
you
that would
know,
be
yeah.
insane.
I mean, that's immediately who I was thinking of, and he just plays it off like they're not actually related, and that's also why he was so, you know, he showed it on screen not being upset, but we know he was upset and he wanted his Maggie back.
Mhm.
So that's what I was thinking. I'm not sure.
I doubt it, but that would
Yeah,
work, I think.
yeah,
Like, that's a
yeah,
really fun guess because that could explain why Maggie's so weird. Maybe he was neglected and not really accepted by the parents, and he just grew up in a I don't know. Doubt it,
yeah.
but I love it.
And
That's a
it's
good guess.
another kind of thing where he almost could have the same trajectory as the mule because if he is given to another family that doesn't want him because of the rations, then he almost has the exact same again trajectory as the mule. He wants to be loved, and that's what
Mhm.
his music does pretty much. It brings everybody into similar minds and everything like that. And I don't know, we'll see.
We're talking about it now, and another guess came to my mind. You would think that the brother of the mule would also be a powerful mentalic.
Right.
So that now is making me think like, is there any chance at all that it was? Give me 1 second. Preem, the mute on Foundation One, because he's a
Mm,
mentalic, and I feel like he might be older. I can't
I feel like
remember.
he's older, yeah,
Yeah,
but that I
we
mean, that's
yeah.
cool.
Yeah. All right,
It
Maggie or
like
Preem. If it's one of them, we're
we're
getting
in.
some
Yeah, we're
credits.
getting
Yeah.
points. Yeah, like you said, Luke, you took the words right out of my mouth. You have to ask it as a viewer/podcaster, but we probably won't get an answer, and that's
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah, it's fine. All right, let's move on to New Terminus and talk about the Mule's invasion here. Uh, First scene or two that we should just talk about, and it'll be easier to flow through some of the other ones grouped together, is just Pritchard's point of view in space of watching everything that we know is going down with all of the self-inflicted battling in space that
Mhm.
he's watching. I bring this up too because we finally get a name drop here of the other warden, or not the other warden, but the other person that was working with Pritchard all the way back to season one, episode one of the season,
Yep.
Stephanie. I, I'm sure it was out there. I just, like this is
Yeah.
the first time they actually said it, but Stephanie, she's going to be important a little bit later. But then this spirals into him getting desperate because he's not being let out by anybody. And then he tries to fake committing suicide here to get the guards to come in. That plays out later. I don't think we need to talk about anything there until the mule gets back onto the space station. So let's just talk about the surface, because the
Yeah.
first couple of scenes that we get here, everybody is dying. It was a well written scene. Like the tension was real. You saw Torin watch the heartbreaking death of that mother carrying the baby who's crying. Like they brutal. They did not hold
Yeah.
back here. You could see the damage that was happening. It was chaotic as hell. This is all going on. And then I like to call him Randall Mule because he shows up with this freaking red dragon
Yeah, jacket.
jacket that Rand from Wheel of Time is just famous for. I love the look of it, but
Yep.
also bring back the iconic goggles that he hasn't shown since the beginning episode, or the beginning scene of this season. And then we just have the complete takeover and the immediate knee bend by Inber, and then the guards, kind of the new warden, or I guess the warden that replaced Pritchard, jumps on board right away. Is like, all right, we're going to listen to them. So this whole intro scene of him kind of taking over after the fighting's done.
And she's the one who relayed the hologram of the mule in the vault, right? Wasn't she the one that pulled out the technology that showed the mule and he was able to talk to them in the vault?
She might have been.
I thought she was. Now, either way, again, this goes back to my question from the last episode, and it really doesn't matter at all. But I was saying, Was she under his influence already, or was he just hacking the technology? Again, who cares? But it just
Mhm.
is very, something I wanted to bring up, that it's the
It does
same
feel
person.
like Ember has been relaying the information, and she's obviously loyal to Ember and on Team the Mule. So it would all kind of tie together that they were working with him and they called him and told him about Pritchard and all that good stuff. But yeah, like this goes about as poorly as it possibly could for the actual Foundation members that are going to survive this. And then he does this whole line about you guys will all love me, which connects directly to the flashback.
Yeah, I mean, this was the takeover. This was the downfall of the Foundation. Name of the episode, the big Pritch stuff. I know we went right by it for a second. I thought that he was literally biting his arm so that he would feel pain, because I know pain is how you can like
Activate
enhance.
your, yeah.
Yeah. Whether it was him enhancing his own mentalic abilities or allow Gail to speak with him or sense him, because that was based on her power as well. The mentalics can sense each other through the pain. So I thought that's what it was going for. And it was more of the simple plan of,
Yeah.
fix some problems and get the guard
I
switch.
do like what that turned into, and that'll be next. I just have one more comment about the mule on the planet before
Hmm.
he goes directly back with Ember up into the space station to get Pritchard. This was the first time in a while where I felt a little Euron vibe in the most not positive way.
Yeah.
When
Yeah.
he's just making it, he just made a little bit of a joke, which I know he's charismatic and he makes light of everything and he's confident in his fate, and ordained path, like his destiny, because he
Right.
talks about that here as well, where Ember says, I have a gift for you, Pritchard. And he goes, oh, like everything is meant to work out the way it is. But before that, like he has a little bit of a weird line
Yeah.
delivery. And I think that's what Kyle keeps
Yep.
latching onto. And this is the first time I really noticed and thought, all right, you're on for a second. But it's not like it ruins it for me at all.
I like this character a lot, and I thought they turned the page on him having the Uranish characteristics, and they kind of reversed that this episode. I still
Hmm.
like the character, but that's the main reason why I wanted to get Kyle's opinion, because he was very Uranish. If
Yeah.
uh if I'm being honest, he had those jokes he was cracking. It's not like he's not cruel and wrathful. It's just he's adding that comedy, the humor to it that I don't know that I necessarily maybe if Euron didn't exist, I would just say, damn, that's a cool character. But it just so happens to be that it's kind of similar.
Yeah. Yeah. And it's fine. Like I said,
Yeah,
still not ruining
still like
anything to
him.
me.
Oh yeah,
Yeah.
agreed.
I am laughing at how much screen time Princess Skirlet is getting
Yeah,
as
and
just like his minion. She's
she was
good.
funny this
Yeah.
episode. Yeah,
She's pretty good when she gets her screen time. I just can't believe he's just carrying her around as like a bodyguard or just part of his posse.
yeah. She's
Yeah.
part of the crew, and she literally just she's under his influence, obviously, but she just seems like the homie with him now. Like she just
Hmm.
plops onto the chair. She's laughing whenever he does stuff. She's drinking wine with him last episode.
Hmm. Yeah. All right. So talk to me about the actual escape plan when they all return back up and they see Pritchard. Were you into it? Was it fine?
Big Pritch escaping.
Yeah. Like the whole
Yeah,
plan.
I mean, I was fine. It's Big Pritch is going to have something big to do eventually. He's been set up for it, and we've been kind of making fun of him for being underwhelming. I think that he's still there, but he'll get his moments, and his moments are coming. I liked that Stephanie, the other character, explains to the mule during these scenes whether she's under his influence or not. She kind of has that defiant look at him, and she obviously
Hmm.
did not like what happened to Ember. And she says, that's just who Big Pritch is. He's not going to roll out. He's going to be there, and he's probably already halfway through planning his insurrection. So I like the character Big Pritch. I like what he can become. I like the
Hmm.
possibilities of Big Pritch. I like Stephanie. I hope that she isn't under his influence. Obviously, she has to either be somewhat or she's just playing along. But I mean, they started the season hot with the two of them. Like I like them as a pair. So
Hmm.
make them be part of the insurrection. Big Pritch will have some big stuff to do. I'm hoping starting next episode because there's only 3 left.
She's gonna have a moment for sure, and I
Yeah,
think this
definitely.
she needed this Ember scene that she gets coming up here. But yeah, she's definitely gonna do something. Either make the sacrifice to say sorry to Pritchard, or it's gonna work out, and she's gonna actually just turn the tides and be like a wild card for the Foundation. So yeah, that's definitely happening, 100%.
Yeah, yeah. And are we fully positive that the Foundation even survives technically? Because Foundation 2 exists for that specific reason almost, right? Is this the moment where I mean, I know that Foundation 2 exists to make sure things are being steered in the right direction in the shadows, but am I forgetting? Like, I thought that there was the point of them as well. Like, I mean, he's asking where's Foundation 2 at? Like, where are those people at? Where are the Mentalics at? He's going after them in the future.
Mhm.
I I mean, I would assume Foundation 1 gets pretty much wiped out. I mean, they could join Foundation 2 who's ever left.
No, I think that's definitely going to happen. And the conversation that I guess the conversation we should have, and it can be at the end of this bucket, is what Harry and the Vault are going to do, because
Yeah,
that's not just going to disappear and be
right.
useless. Like he has too many things left to do. And since we haven't been getting biological Harry, he's the only connection to the actor. So I just don't think that that's going to go away. But yeah, I mean, I'm kind of into the idea of Foundation 1 getting wiped out. That even further escalates how cool the Mule is and how important his role is in the story. If he actually wipes out the first Foundation, like that to me seems like a really good plot point because of Foundation 2's existence.
And going back to our conversation with Kyle in the last episode, I wouldn't be surprised if he fully wins this throwdown with
Mhm.
Foundation and decides, okay, I said it. I'm taking Foundation and I'm taking Trantor. So next up is Trantor. And that's why he goes there. And that's where our end game of the season begins.
Yeah.
Whether we get all of it this season or it bleeds into next season, I'm not sure. Part of me now just wants it to be all in this season just because we know what is going down behind the scenes, but we'll
Yeah.
see.
Mhm.
So that could be it. That could be the trajectory, and we'll see. I mean, I would assume, let's hope, Big Pritch, a few of the others. Big Pritch is technically Second Foundation, so whoever survives can just be part of Second Foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. I'm with you. Okay. So after Pritchard escapes, he goes back to the surface. We'll pick back up with that in a second. Then we have everything to do with Randu and everything to do with Torin and his escape with Beta, who he's bobbing and weaving while all the chaos is going on. He makes it back to his ship, and before he can actually escape, Randu comes and makes me hate him again, which I thought we were
Yeah.
on a good path with him, but he ends up just going full opportunist mode where he just wants to work with the Mule. He doesn't care about the Foundation. I thought there was some character growth we hit with him over the last 2 episodes, but I guess that's not really the case here.
Well,
Uh,
let me
yeah,
ask you: did you think he was influenced? Was he compulsed, or do you think that was him?
I think that was him.
Oh, really? See, I took it as he was compulsed. At first, I was like, okay, he's compulsed. Then he had part of the conversation with Torin where he was like, why is this bad for us? If the foundation falls, that's pretty much good for the traders. Like that part, I was like, oh, is that Randu? But then when he started trying to fight him at the end, like actually hand to hand combat and doing that whole
Mhm.
thing, and he's like, I'm with you, I'm with you. That's kind of where I was like, maybe he is compulsed. So I ended up with him being compulsed in my mind, but it's definitely something that could have gone either way.
I'm now thinking about. I guess he could have been. I was gonna chirp back and say that everything we've seen about the ability of compulsion has usually been like a one mission oriented directive of do
Mhm,
this
mhm.
rather than be like change your personality. But then if you think about Princess Scarlet, she's completely under the
Right.
control. So I guess it could be like what you're saying, because I was thinking like the Mule doesn't necessarily wouldn't have had the time or priority to just go specifically to Randu and say, "Go find your nephew and bring him to
Right.
me." It would have been more about just love me and become like an appendage of the Mule's army or whatever. And
Yep.
I guess that could actually work. So yeah, I mean, I can't say you're wrong. And maybe the weird part is like, why would anybody be pushing back them? Wouldn't Stephanie have also been put under that spell? And which she still
Yeah.
could be, but it
Right.
felt like she was a little independent in her scene
Yeah.
later on. So
Which
it's tough.
yeah, it is definitely tough. Stephanie was a weird scenario because she was making the faces when Inber was drowning himself, and then she definitely looked defiant when she was answering the mule.
Mhm.
So was she just playing along? Was she compulsed light? Not actually. I don't know. Who knows?
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So I guess the thing that we have to talk about besides Randu's death, you kind of went over that. Beta gets taken. And
Yeah.
I thought that there was a situation that we had here before Randu got shot was that his escape pod, I thought it was just gonna do what a
self-destruct.
rocket ship, like, yeah, explosion
Ex
of like the
the
ignition that would
ship,
have killed
yeah,
everybody in there. They made it a point to show that Beta got taken out of there, so it would have
right.
been fine. I think that actually would have been cooler if he was the one that like killed Randu because of what he was doing there. But that's not actually what happens. We do see him take off though. So the question is, we're watching a TV show cap on, what's his next thing? Is he going to somehow meet up with Gail because she has to get looped back into the story in an important way? Or is he possibly going to go to Haven and now rally the troops of the Mallows because he's like the only Mallow that we know that's left? Or third option being that he somehow puts the trajectory to Trantor and gets looped into the Trantor storyline down the line. I feel like those are the only three options, and I
And
don't
Big
know what's the
Pritch.
most likely. Yeah, but Pritch went to the surface, didn't it? Wasn't it kind of implied that he left the planet, or was it just him?
So, Big Pritch, I took it as he was in orbit, he's just planet side. Like, does that mean he was actually just on a different part of the planet? He, like, moved to a different part of the planet?
No,
Or
Pritchard's going to the planet surface for sure. I'm saying that Torin, I thought he was leaving the planet.
yeah, no, I know what you're saying. So, Torrin played the game that Big Pritch is pretty much playing, where he's like, if I live to see another day, I could plan some kind of rescue mission for Beta.
Mhm.
He couldn't do anything while she was getting taken there. So I guess that's fine. If I had to guess, rally the troops, I would say
Yeah,
go to Haven. That's my guess.
because you can't leave Beta. She's the best, and there's no way he's gonna live
Yeah.
his life without going back for her.
No, he's definitely going back for her. And I agree with both of your sentiments in the last episode. You and Kyle were saying, and I was agreeing. I think she should become a main character. She
Mhm.
really showed a lot the last few episodes, especially last episode. So I do think she will become very important. And
It
I
was
think
very
Torn will
sad she didn't have
too.
any lines this episode.
Yeah, she was just
She's
knocked
been
out the
knocked
whole
out.
episode.
It's
Yeah.
Harry's fault, honestly.
Yeah, it
So
really is.
Okay, we're good there. Let's move on to the last scenes, which we've already talked a little bit about, which is just the Mule still in the satellite with Inber. And this is when he does the command to drown himself, which I still love anytime we get that compulsion ability. His ruthlessness has to keep showing itself, and he's willing to do kind of whatever here.
The only thing that was running through my mind during this was, man, could this have been a test of how strong the compulsion actually is? Because, someone just going and putting their head underwater, I mean, it's very, very hard to drown yourself just like that, right? You would pull
Yeah.
yourself
Oh,
up at the
yeah.
brink of death, of course. So I was wondering if that could have been like a test of his power. And at the last second, Inber just out of habit pulled himself out and it would have broke it, just as like an example of what the mule can do. But no, that just showed us, as actually, I guess it was an example. It showed us he can literally make you do anything.
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. I mean, going back to the Scarlet thing, like she was just going to shoot herself as a little kid and not even understanding the implication. So I like that it
But
is
and
a
yeah,
just a
and
complete, just like absolute.
right, and even that though, like if he tells the little girl like shoot yourself, like if you're gonna pull a trigger, you're gonna pull a trigger because he tells you to. But I was wondering if the natural body's reaction would
Mhm.
have saved him. But no,
Yeah.
like even that was overridden, which
Yeah.
that's crazy.
No, I love it. Uh, he accomplishes what he needs to on the ship. He gets what information from 70 that he needs to, and then he goes back to the surface and approaches the vault. This is all kind of coupled and layered with the flashback, the second flashback that is. So it makes more sense in context of the episode. But when he eventually gets there, he's talking to the vault and he explains like he escaped. Yeah, it's more of like a voice narrative thing. He escaped the planet that he was on with pirates, and that's how he eventually got to where he is. But he's really just talking down, and he hates Harry so much because of his creation of the Foundation, where he says to him, like, they never took as much as you did, and he's like pissed, and he's trying to get a reaction from him, which is when Harry shows up. And I loved the delivery of Hari Seldon. Like, that's the kind
Yeah,
of charismatic bubbly that I like versus the urine stuff where he kind of, I don't know. There's a difference. It's
right.
hard to put into words of when it's good, when it's bad. And I think right here, it's almost like a cocky. It
Yes, there's a
worked.
there's a
Yeah.
difference between having a cocky moment, like I'm a know it, like I know everything, and I'm looking at you as an equal, or actually me above you, versus doing something wrathful and making a joke about it, right?
Yes. Exactly. Yes. Yeah. Yeah. So my question to you, I guess, is the reaction of AI Harry here. makes me feel like the writing of last episode was even weirder with the fact that
Yeah.
he's not actually like fearful of physically being near him and
Right.
having him near the vault. So it makes me question what was Harry's play. And I know it's all guesswork at this point because we clearly are going to figure out a lot more clues after their conversation next episode. But I'm even more confused about the end of episode 6 now.
Yeah, I fully agree. My thoughts here, because Harry was super calm, cool, and collected, being Harry while talking to the mule, my thoughts were that Harry, as the AI Harry, may know that the trajectory, the psychohistory of all of these crises are okay. We're at 3. Well, apparently three's done, but at some point, Foundation needs to fall, and maybe he just realizes like, okay, this was the moment, and
Mm.
he was kind of saving in the vault the main people of Foundation. So trying
Oh,
to
that's
stick with
good.
psychohistory, he kicked them out so that they could meet their fate.
That is good. I actually really like that. He was almost throwing off the plan by having them explain the plan and like realizing they're further ahead because of all the stuff that's happened this season.
Yep.
That works. I actually really like that.
Cool. Yeah.
Yeah. Any other guesses before we leave the planet and head over to Trantor? We're making pretty decent time.
Yeah. No, I don't have any guesses, any theories or anything with this, but they just know how to end an episode
Mhm.
because you want to hit next episode. You want this conversation. There's a lot of times in this show where you're just like, wow, I can't wait for this conversation. And this is one of them.
I'll be honest, I might be anticipating this conversation more than I was the Demerzel and Gale conversation. That
Ooh,
might be a hot
that's
take,
big.
but
Yeah.
it's just because I guess of some of the implications we just talked about, like what is Harry's relationship to the ultimate outlier that's not in psychohistory? Like this is his first time.
Right.
He just learned about the mule within like the last 20 minutes or whatever it's been. So how he's going to think on his feet, react, and talk about this, and also set the stage for the fourth crisis and whatever is going to play out. Like I'm
Right.
really excited. And every time we've had big mule conversations, it's been through technology
Yep.
almost like it's not actually been in person, so it's going to be really cool to see this. I don't know, maybe I did anticipate the Gale and Demerzel more, but this one's up there for me. I'm really excited for their
And
conversation.
it's another chance for the mule to prove himself to us as a
Hmm.
character in this show. I
Intelligence wise, because
yes.
he can't compulse Harry, or at least
Right.
we'll learn that he can't do that. So yeah.
Yep.
Okay, over to Trantor. We have two sub buckets on this planet. It's just going to be following Dusk, and then one's going to be following Day and Song. Let's just start with Dusk. I have thoughts here.
Okay.
Yeah, so I've been liking Dusk. We haven't been getting a lot of him recently. He was pretty interesting in the beginning, and the most important wild card of this entire season, the Black Hole Bomb. So I'm happy that we're going back to him because he is now figuring out, or he finds out pretty early into this episode that they don't really know what's going on with the other two Cleons. He's kind of isolated here. He's hearing all of this political turmoil around him of all the different representatives that are physically on Trantor. So he has a lot to deal with. Also, he's having these moments of like hallucinations and it's like weird cinematography. Is that just because of the timing of like him processing all of this, or is it because he's actually getting closer to the reason why you have to ascend earlier, which is like you go
Yeah.
crazy earlier because of your
Right.
genetic defects, whatever
Yeah.
it would be. Like, were you thinking the same thing? It seems like you're shaking your head. Yes.
Yeah. It seemed like he was losing it for a second and then he snapped back into it. I think it's the time bomb. And Demerzel herself said, I know exactly. I'm the clock. I know
Hmm.
when this time is going to tick down to 0. And I guess that's what's happening with Dusk here. He has 3 more days. I don't know if we count. I don't know if they slept overnight together or if they just did the damn thing and then he got out of bed, whatever it is. But every moment counts now for Dusk. And
Hmm.
he chose to spend a good amount of time with it, with the ambassador to the foundation. And obviously, we're going to get to the ending. Obviously, the ending is the biggest part of this because we have this Dusk where he seems like he's more like a Dawn, very not necessarily innocent, but he sees the ferret. He's a little bit pissed off, but then the ambassador likes it. So he's feeding it and they're having a little fun with it. And then he's very compassionate towards the ambassador and they kiss. And he says, this is going to be one of the last things I do. I'm going to make sure that you're safe here. I'm going to assure your safety. They do the damn thing. He seems like he's rubbing, rubbing her cheek, and
Mhm.
and then all of a sudden he leaves the room and he goes to feed the ferret, and then he just stomps on it, man.
Hardcore. That was
Yeah,
unnecessary to me because I just adopted 2 kittens. It hit me even worse.
yeah.
Yeah.
And they had to freaking show it. Like, come on, right?
Yeah, yeah.
I heard the
Mhm.
crunch, man. I heard the crunch. That's all I need. So
Yeah, the
he's a Cleon, right? Is
mhm,
that where we're going here? Is his psyche breaking with his DNA, or is he just a Cleon who's deciding, like, I had my pleasures, and now I'm going to make sure I actually do leave a mark in my last couple days, plus maybe buy some more time for me?
mhm.
Is
If
that where you're going?
if I could selfishly pick the reason of why this is all happening to him and the way he's acting this way, I would prefer that the genetic how do they describe it? They said, like, the further down the
The
clones they
anomalies,
get,
right,
yes,
right.
they keep adding. I would prefer that it's that reason because that kind of validates the whole idea of ascension. Because why not just let them grow into old age and then just die naturally
Right.
unless there's, like, a reason, and this is the first time we've ever seen something like this happen. Granted, like, it could just be the erratic behavior of Cleon that is now isolated by himself without Demerzel there, without Day or Dawn as, like, his successors. It could work either way writing-wise, which is the sign of a good show that both paths work out. Just
Yeah.
selfishly, I like the idea of him becoming more and more unhinged as he passes that clock, that timed psychosis that he's pretty much going into because of what Demerzel said earlier in the season. That seems like a more fun storyline for him because then he can just start giving out crazy orders. And if
Right.
there's nobody
Disempowered.
around him to just reel it in, like that could be like, all right, black hole bomb Calgon right now. Like the mule's
Yeah.
there, boom, done. And like that, there could be something there. That seems like a really fun storyline.
I fully agree. And it seems like, based on prior conversations with this Dusk, Demerzel, Day, that they have gotten to the point where it's past all zeros, right?
Hmm.
The clock hit all zeros, and the Dusk was still alive, and something happened. And they realized that this clock is getting shorter and shorter, and Demerzel knows when it's time, and she literally doesn't miss, right? So
Yeah.
they have the evidence, but we haven't seen it on screen yet. And I'm excited if that is what we're getting. I would like to see that on screen. So I'm down.
Hmm.
And to your point, it's like the Mad King, right? Having someone like Dusk be the only one left who's just barking orders, he's losing
Yeah.
his mind. It would be the perfect reason why he would actually unleash the black hole bomb without thinking, too.
Yep. I love it all. The only 2 comments I have left about Dusk, specifically his stuff, was it was a pretty quick line, and it was at the very beginning, his first scene. They say that all of the outer reach planets are getting invaded. That's
Okay.
just background world building to keep in mind. Like the Foundation is losing all of its strongholds. Like that's just natural with how the mule's been growing.
Hmm.
And then skipping ahead to maybe the biggest shock of this whole episode for me, I can't believe that was their first kiss, Gwen
Yeah,
and Dusk.
they were showing the vibes for as
Yeah.
long as we've known them, but they never actually even kissed. And maybe that goes back to the fact that she's known him for 30 years. So she's known him as Day. She's known him as a younger Dusk. And when you're that version of Day and Dusk, you're very much so all about the power. And
Mhm.
you are still wrapped up in, this is what I'm supposed to do. I don't have time for actual love. It's really, Dusk says it himself, and Dusk has said it multiple times. It's really for Dawn to be the one to fall in love and to actually allow himself to feel emotions. This Day has, but it's really for
Mhm.
Dawn, and we've seen it season after season, dawn after dawn. And this is one of the first Dusks that's shown us that, except for actually the last Dusk did with
Who?
Rue. Yes, Rue.
Yeah.
That Dusk seemed to be emotionally attached
Mhm.
to Rue, but otherwise, it's usually been Dusk giving the speech, giving the lecture about, no, you don't have time for love.
Yeah. Yeah, and that makes sense, but it just surprised me because I
Yeah, I
was so
agree.
confident that they had the sexual chemistry of like a past history. But anyway, my last question, I guess, to you is how does it play out and what is the end game for Gwent as a character? Because I'm thinking that maybe because the Foundation is no longer going to be a protected embassy on Trantor, like we saw that he even went to the Foundation. It was cool. You got to see the background of Harry on the wall. Like they have like a whole area that's set up for the Foundation representatives there. That was cool. But like what's the end game here? Is she going to snap him back into reality when he starts going crazy, or is there going to be like a even bigger snap of him now being like, I don't care about you, kills her, that
Yeah.
ends his humanity, and he's like full crazy. I could see either playing out, but I don't see Gwent having a happy ending here in the next couple episodes.
I don't see Trantor in general having a happy ending, so
Yeah.
she's not gonna have a great ending. If I was her and I'm looking into Dusk's eyes and Dusk says, "Hey, I'm securing your safety," I would be like, "Cool." But as soon as you're
Hmm.
gone, it just
Yeah.
doesn't work. So I don't see anything good happening. But again, like you said, I could see it either going either way.
Okay. Cool. Let's take it home. We got the last storyline here, and as a podcaster, I detest having to break down visions that are all metaphorical and having to guess what it means, how much of it is foreshadowing, how much of it is actually going to play a part here. But if you're going to make me do it, make me do it through the eyes of this Cleon this day, because he is just the absolute homie. I'll say that it felt like Whiplash at how unthreatened he was when we come into this episode. Like, I thought they were going to have like a gun to his head, but they're kind of just letting him hang out. And
Yeah,
I guess they're catching on that he had good intentions up until this point, and he really wanted to just explain to Song what their relationship and their connection was. They talk about Demerzel a little bit, and then it goes into what I love, which makes sense thinking back on the whole season, is how mushrooms are so important to this sector of Trantor, and they have these even stronger mushrooms that make you just trip balls and tell the truth. It's basically what's the Harry Potter I always forget the
Veritas
name.
theorem.
Yes, it's basically
Veritas theorem.
that, right?
Yeah,
Like, you can't lie when you're under this. And it was done in a creative way. Like, you did get to see Song asking him questions as he's phasing in and out of just physically being in the room, and he's telling the truth every time he gets the chance, while also, now that we've seen the whole episode, in the back of your mind knowing that her life mate is going and reporting him to the head of the inheritance religion, which is going to be really cool, but there's
yeah.
not too much to talk about yet. But let's, before he even enters the scene, tell me some of the things that you were picking up from this vision and what it means, and how you reacted to this whole sequence.
So I agree with you, man. We learned this from Game of Thrones, especially if you read A Song of Ice and Fire,
Hmm.
when Daenerys is going through her trip to Mars when she's hallucinating and you're trying to figure out what the deal is, and it's freaking giving you the red wedding and all this kind of stuff that you don't know long before it even exists. But I didn't necessarily try to do it that way. What I did take from it was an overarching theme here, and it gave us some answers if we can take it as almost memories that
Hmm.
we get a side of things from Day's perspective with his relationship with Demerzel and vice versa, and what he saw from Demerzel as a child. And we have been asking this question since we learned the answer of who Demerzel was and what her directive was and why she is always going to be there. And Day as a child straight up asked her, like, would you love us if you could? I mean, that day is literally Cleon the first saying, like, I wish I didn't make you love me before so I
Hmm.
could ask you and you could tell me the truth. And she, as Day, he says it out of his mouth. She doesn't say it in the vision, but freedom would win over love. She would run, right? And I think the biggest thing here is that all of these dawns, days, dusks see Demerzel as a mother. They're born, and Day ironically says, we're not born. And isn't
Yep.
that belly button? Isn't
Yep.
that belly button?
I can't believe you talked that long without saying that yet.
Yeah.
That's
She's like,
insane.
she's like, Jim, you want him to
Yeah.
have a belly button? He gets a belly button. But these day, dust, dawn, they're created. And while the day at the time and the dusk at the time take care of the dawn baby, Demerzel is really the mother here, right?
Hmm.
And as they grow older, they start to learn the truth, and you basically just have mommy problems, right? It just turns into something where you're always wondering, does she actually love me? Did she actually love me? I took it like she did. I feel these emotions towards her, but she's a robot. So does she care about me at all? And she didn't do anything to betray this day, but he feels betrayed because of just the nature of her existence. She has a directive to love him, but she doesn't and she wouldn't. if she
Mhm.
could make that choice herself. And then it goes towards the other side of things where they're showing Demerzel crying and he's saying, "Are you hurt?" And that's the thing, did you hurt yourself? It keeps saying it over and over. And she says, "That's not the only reason to cry. Haven't you ever been sad before?" And he's saying, "Why are you sad?" And it's just the pain that Demerzel must feel because she's probably at all times fighting this directive that she can't beat. And it was wild watching this vision because her being a part of the painting and then coming out of it,
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it was crazy. But I took it that way. I didn't take it much like it was giving us like future visions or anything like that.
Yeah, yeah,
How
yeah.
were you taking it?
No, I mean, you went through that and summarized that pretty well. The piece that I keep hanging on to and I really enjoy, which now that you're just talking about it, like this, while this is a way of Song and her life mate to actually confirm that Demerzel is real, it was really just to give us more about Demerzel
Yeah,
as a character, because she even goes through some of her past, which we knew for the most part, like soldier, prisoner, and he says, "When were you a prisoner?" Like all these things. She goes and lists like her whole history because she's been around for thousands and thousands of years. That was really cool, but I keep hanging on. I think it's like a fantastically written line about Day asking her, like, "What do
yeah,
you care more about, love or freedom?" And then she's like, "I can't answer that." And he comes to the realization at the end of the trip saying that you can't answer that because freedom would win over love. And
right,
that sums up her whole entire character arc in a way. And that
exactly.
seems to paint the future of her path as a character, which is cool. Like that all is kind of in line and makes sense. And then the other thing that happens here is that it wasn't said directly, and you can't tell what he's actually saying to Song because of how this is filmed. But did you take it away that also he basically admitted to her, which could really come back into play, is that she can't be free until the genetic dynasty ends? He doesn't say it like that, but he
Right.
almost kind of does, which could be horrible for him as a character, because if the inheritance leader that we're about to meet right here knows that, then of course, like their only objective now is going to be to murder all the Cleons because then they want to free their god. And if Song did take that away and they actually tell the leader that I feel like this day is so dead.
Yeah, and you said this last episode, Luke, and you were like, "I wonder if this day could rally the troops for Trantor." But what could actually happen here is a rebellion against the Cleons and Trantor in general from this group. And I'm not saying Day wouldn't be a part of it, but knowingly he would have to know that he has to die at the end of this
At the end.
because what he
Yep.
admits, like you said, he's inferring it's impossible. He doesn't say like as long as we exist, she's under our control. He doesn't say it outwardly, and that's the
Hmm.
sign of a good show. But he
Yeah.
infers that it's impossible, and she says this is an abomination. You tied her to you,
Hmm.
and Luke, and she said, meaning Demerzel. Day asks her, "What would you do?" I guess it was Dawn at the time. What would you do if you had your freedom? And she said, "I would create other robots."
Can't believe I didn't mention that, but that's insane. And that's gonna just be like catnip for these freaking inheritance people,
Yep.
right? Like they're gonna love that idea. And I don't think you just throw that line in there without that possibility at least being put onto the table in a future scene for Demerzel. So and that I really like the idea of more robots because
Yeah.
she's clearly the most layered character in this show and so interesting. And because when you're a robot, you can carry through multiple seasons and multiple time jumps. So getting more robots is never a bad thing, but I don't know.
Yeah,
I don't know.
we'll see. I mean, the
Mm.
only time so far we've had any thoughts that another robot could exist is the people that saved Harry.
Right. Callie, like the Callie person,
Whatever the
whatever
Prime
that is.
Radiant manifestation slash Cali. So, yeah, that's the only instance where we could have guessed that maybe another robot does exist in this universe. But now we meet this character, Luke, and this is who you were about to
Mhm.
talk about. Yeah,
Go ahead.
so we're introduced to the big dog. And I was is this underwhelming to you at all? I was waiting for a face reveal. They just showed his abs like for 20 minutes, not really, but they just kept showing it like it was like no face, no face. I was like, is this going to be like a Dawn, like a rogue Dawn or Day or something? I thought it was going to be a Cleon. I really did. And
I
I guess
so did. I so
yeah.
did as well.
And
Yeah.
it sounded like someone that maybe it could be a Dusk, that, a day that lived on and has, hey, if this is someone who passed his clock, maybe it's a mad Dusk that is
Mhm.
a robot king. And either way, the face reveal happens. Nothing. I was
Mhm.
trying so hard to be like, who do I know this person? But we don't know this person. But he has this cool staff that has, I'm guessing, the last robot head relic
Mhm.
on either the planet or the universe. So good for
I
him.
you know, I like his vibe. I agree.
Yeah.
They shot it in a way that I thought I was supposed to react to, like,
Yeah.
knowing, like, they could have just showed him walk in, like,
Yeah.
it wouldn't have changed much. But I do think that I love the idea. Like, his aesthetic looks awesome. He
Yep. Yep.
seems intimidating. His delivery as an actor is pretty good. And to go toe to toe with Lee Pace is always a tough challenge because he's the freaking best actor on the show. Like, it's going to be fun to watch them go head to head. And this literally just popped into my mind. What if that is the Mule's brother?
Oh, gosh.
He was
Wow.
about the right age, don't you think?
Yeah. Yeah.
That would be
And
so
he's on
cool. Because then,
Trantor. Could you imagine if he is a mentalic, but also if there's a scenario where the mule does have whisper ships, but Trantor has some kind of way that they believe they can defend. So the mule is taunting them, and they're like, "You're okay. You could try to get here, but you're really not." And he's like, "Well, I already got someone on the inside, and it's his
mhm.
brother." That'd be pretty cool. Pretty cool.
Then we can kind of look back on it and say, I guess it was an important character reveal, but not that we could have guessed that anyway. But it would imply that he's a strong mentalic and he has some connection. Yeah, I mean, I would love that. I doubt it. He's probably just a
Yeah,
random
just a
guy that's
guy.
obsessed with robots.
Yep,
Yeah.
just a guy.
But I have a feeling Day could get tortured next episode. That would be pretty intense. Like, I don't see a path forward where after the realization about the genetic dynasty tying Demerzel to her directive, like, how can they not torture him and put a gun to his head and make sure that he basically dies at the end of this journey, which is so
Yeah.
sad because he's the best.
The only thing that would save him maybe is if they worry what Demerzel's kind of worrying about, where they're sitting here going, if we kill all the Cleons, what happens to Demerzel? Does she like implode? Does her mind go crazy because her directive is trying to keep the Empire alive and she can't fulfill it anymore? I don't think that's what's going to happen, but I have a little bit of sliver that that may be a way to keep him alive because they're going to at least be discussing it for an episode or two and just be like,
Mhm.
should we kill him? Can we kill him? Um, but what I will say is, where the hell is Demerzel? She rolled out on Gale, and okay, I guess she couldn't jump, or maybe she could, whatever. But I mean, Dusk is doing the damn thing by himself, and I figured Demerzel would be back by now.
Yeah, that's true. I was gonna say there's not technically anything that makes it so that that had to happen like at the same time. Like, it technically could have been happening while Demerzel was talking to Gale. Like, there's no real reason it has to be like linear like that.
Yeah,
So,
right.
but I don't know. The Dust stuff does because he finds out about
Well,
Dawn.
she when she goes to Gale, she stops and she does say the mule. Doesn't she get that information and say it out
Yeah.
loud? And that's why
Yeah,
she
yeah, yeah.
stops. So that would make it linear, wouldn't it? The moment she's with Gail ties her in the timeline to exactly when the mule is taking over Foundation New Terminus.
Yeah, but
So
how's that
that
tied to Day?
oh no, I was tying it to Dusk, not Day.
Gotcha. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay,
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, I agree. I guess Demerzel should be showing up to Dusk to the palace now. You're right. Yeah,
Yeah.
you're right about that. Unless she's on her way to New Terminus for some reason,
Yeah. Who knows?
which could be a thing. I don't know. Yeah, that's a good point. She's definitely gonna be in next episode. There's no way they're going 2 episodes without like a live Demerzel.
Oh yeah. And it's just confusing because Dusk has enough information where he says, looks like Day isn't coming back, and it looks like Dawn actually is in trouble. He's not coming back. I'm
Mhm.
the only one left. If Demerzel's the only one that can decant the new Dawn, the new Day, I would think she'd be rushing back to do it. But we know that there is some confusion over what will happen if she tries to do it at this moment because they are pretty much being uploaded exactly at the moments before death of a Day and a Dawn. And Dawn at death was Foundation loyal but mad at Gale, and Day is
Mhm.
still alive. So, I mean, I'm sure you can go in and start erasing memories like she does for the other
Yeah,
ones, but maybe it takes time. I don't know. But you would think that she needs some more Cleons on board.
definitely. Yeah. But that's it. That's the end of the episode. Another banger.
Yeah, another great episode. I thought that the Mule stuff was great. I thought that everything about Demerzel was always great, even though she wasn't in it a lot. But Day going to Mars and having his vision gave us some more information, some information that we needed. I freaking loved the flashback. I thought this was a really good episode, a necessary episode for the Mule. And like you said, I'm thinking it might not be much longer that we have the Mule, but we'll see.
We'll
We'll
enjoy it
see. I
while we
mean,
have them. Take it in
I want
stride.
and I wonder if they'll have to try I mean, I feel like they will have to have some kind of setup at the end of season 3 for the next crisis or big bad if they get
Oh
rid of
yeah.
the Mule. So we'll be fine. And then we'll have all year and a half, 2 years to worry about how season 4 is going to
Hmm.
be. But yeah, I was in for this episode, Kyle. We missed you. We have 3 episodes left, and I'm expecting bangers.
Hmm. Me too, man.
All
Sign us
right,
out.
guys. Yes, guys, thank you so much for listening. We are the Core Podcast. We are focusing fully on Foundation right now, but we will be checking in on some other Apple TV Plus shows. And we don't currently know what our next big show is going to be. And we want you guys to help us out. BingetownTV.com/Discord. Hit us up in the Spotify comments or the YouTube comments. Let us know what you guys want. After Foundation ends, we have a little bit of an opening, so we're ready. Let us know what you're interested in. We'll take it all into consideration. Otherwise, just join the Discord and talk to us. Have some fun. It's one of our favorite parts. We also had the Binge Empire podcast. Luke alluded to it earlier in this episode. We're covering Dexter Resurrection right now. We're also covering Alien Earth. We finished with the Sandman. We have the Institute on MGM Plus. We have Gen V coming. We have Stranger Things coming. There's a lot coming on the Binge Empire podcast. So if you're interested in anything not Apple TV Plus, we put it all on the Binge Empire podcast. So please hit that subscribe button. Otherwise, guys, we'll see you next week, and hopefully it'll be all 3 Cleons waiting here for you, ready to talk. Once again, we are the Core Podcast covering all things Apple TV Plus, and thank you so much for listening.